Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Brian.
And I'm Carrie.
And this podcast is dedicated to making things simple and easy for you in the kitchen. Carrie Brown is a classically trained, world-class chef who has a passion for creating ketogenic recipes that taste better than anything you've ever experienced. But more than that, she loves teaching people how to cook the right way.
And each week on this podcast, Brian and I discuss all the ways you can create awesome keto food that is guaranteed to make you a rock star in the kitchen.
If you'd like to learn more about Ketovangelist Kitchen, you can go to KetoVangelistKitchen.com and sign up for the newsletter.
In exchange for your email address, you'll get brand new recipes delivered to your inbox, ready for you to whip up in the kitchen and enjoy with your friends and family.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and learn. You're about to enter the Ketovangelist Kitchen. Hey everyone, this is Brian and Carrie. Say hi, Carrie.
Hello.
And we are back again with another segment of the Ketovangelist Kitchen. And what are we talking about today, Carrie?
We are talking about reading labels because label reading is very, very, very important.
Okay, so here's a question for you. But I thought what we were doing was eating food that didn't have labels. So,
well, that yes.
However,
yes. However, in this modern day, unless you're going to kind of, go out and throw a spear at your meat in a field somewhere.
Right.
Most meat, which we love as keto people, has labels on and, stuff like that. So there are labels and, there are a few things that we eat with labels.
Right. And so the point being that just because we say eat real food, eat whole food, does not mean you are completely extricated from the process of actually having to be responsible for the food that you're buying and eating, right?
Right. And I think particularly if you find yourself out and about, if you're road tripping, or if you're at the airport or you're in a place where you're not completely in control of what's available, then that's particularly like red flag time for reading labels and understanding a label so you can navigate that successfully.
Absolutely. Okay. So we don't live in a bubble, right? we have to travel around and sometimes you have to make the best situation of everything possible. So, all right. So what is like lesson number one about label reading then for keto folks?
Lesson number one is read them.
Done. All right. Simple, easy to remember. I like it.
You need to. So particularly these days, if you're in the supermarket and you're looking and it says, sugar-free or fat-free or healthy or, added B vitamin, all that garbage on the front of the label, don't pay mind to any of that. What we're talking about, in fact, if it says it, it probably means you shouldn't eat it. If it says any of that stuff. So what we're talking about is reading that little black and white nutrition facts thingy on the back of packets and cans and bottles. And that's what we're talking about, the nutrition facts.
Right. Okay. So what advice do you give? So let's say people are actually taking the time to read it, which I'm surprised at the number of people who don't, right? And I'm not saying...
Which is why tip number one was read it.
Right, exactly. But the reality of it is we get brand loyal, right? And we get and brand blind, right? We've always eaten a certain food. We know what the box or the container looks like, so we just go and grab it and that's it. When you become keto, the world takes on a completely different look. Right. And people, this is a sentiment that people give to me all the time is, I couldn't believe how much sugar was in all the food that I was eating. And even when it wouldn't be necessarily a sugar food. So, so there's two things that you want to look at, right? Carrie and I were talking beforehand and she was kind of clarifying a lot of this stuff for me. So I'm stealing her thunder. Ha ha ha. There's two things you want to look for, and one is the ingredients list, but the other is the nutrition facts. So those are two different things, and you have to get them to mesh, right? Is that basically it?
Right, and I think again you're saying, aren't we supposed to be eating stuff without labels? The best example of why we still need to eat things with labels is dairy, and particularly the minefield of the dairy department is yogurt. And we've all kind of been trained to think that yogurt is healthy and blah, 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 blah. If you read, and I've spent hours, probably weeks of my life reading labels. If you read the nutrition facts labels of all the different Greek yogurts, you will find they are entirely different products nutritionally. And so you need to figure out, in your locale, what the best one is nutritionally. And then you don't have to read the label anymore because you just know. So once you've worked out all the best of, then you don't need to read the labels anymore because you just know which one to go get.
Okay, so there's the lesson, right? Spend some time up front, learn what it is that you're buying, learn what it is that you're eating, and then you can basically use the consistency of the food purchasing process after that, right? But you got to educate yourself first. So there's some work up front, right?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
So
are you tending to cats? Are you herding cats right now? Literally herding?
I was herding a cat. Yes, the cat is now officially herded.
There should be a more scientific term for that. Like when you corral a cat, like there's got to be like a more scientific than her. Anyway. Okay. So let's get back to reading labels. Sorry, I digress. So what are some red flags on labels that people should be aware of?
So, and the reason, and you mentioned it already, the reason that you need to look at both the gram counts and the actual list of ingredients is because, for example, in tomato paste, there's going to be a number on the sugars because tomatoes have sugars in.
Right.
Right. But if you also want to look at the ingredients and see if the sugar, the white stuff, is included on the ingredients. And if you're going to use a tomato paste, you want to buy one with no sugar listed as an ingredient and also the lowest, carb count on sugars in the nutrition facts. You've got to look at both. You can't just look at one.
Okay. So this is okay. Now you bring up a great point, right? So let's put a pin in that real quick, and let's address that in just a second. But so if you see a certain number of sugars, but you don't see sugar as an added ingredient, that tells you what?
It tells you that it's onboard sugar, so it's the sugars that grew up in the tomato.
All right, so
for example.
Right, so it's not a refined processed sugar; it's just a natural occurring carb in the fruit or in the food itself, right? And tomatoes are fruit, right. Technically. That's why I'm saying fruit.
Right. Yes.
All right. So you don't have to worry about added stuff. This is just Mother Nature taking her her recipes and putting them together.
Yes.
Okay. So that's a good point. Now let's talk a little bit about carbs and what they mean on the label, because not everyone's very clear about the fact that it'll say total carb count will be 10, and then it'll say sugars and then other, and they don't always add up to 10. Like sugars will be 4, and then other will be, I'm not good at math, let's say 5. Oh, what happened to that other gram? Like where did all this stuff go? So why is that the case, and do you even need to worry about it to that level?
And there's two schools of thought there's the whole total carb, net carb thing, and half of the LCHF keto world says use net carbs, and the other half says use total carbs. What's your opinion on that?
On net versus total carbs?
Yeah.
I am in the camp of I don't track anything, but if I did, I would totally track total carbs. I would not do net.
Okay. So, and I'm in the other camp in that I don't track anything either, but I would track net carbs because, for example, if I'm having my, half-pound fatty lamb chop and I'm having a big old spoonful of leeks, which I love, sauteed in butter with them because that's my green leafy vegetables, I'm not at all concerned about the indigestible starch, aka carbs, that are in the leeks.
Right. And just
for example.
Agreed. And the other thing is that leeks have one of the funniest names of all the vegetables. I think that needs to be pointed out.
But they're also incredibly good for your gut biome.
That is true. That is true. And part of the reason for that is because they're named leeks. And I think that goes without
Make
saying.
that up.
I did. I totally made that up just now. You can check the show notes for scientific attributions for all of that. Anyway, so yeah, so there's different schools of thought and there's different reasons for it. But
And I, you know, whichever, and I think if you're on therapeutic keto, which is my brain is broken or I have cancer, or you know, where this is a medical requirement to have you on keto, then absolutely you should be looking at total.
right.
But if you're down the other end of nutritional ketosis, as in you're just using keto to lose weight, then you can probably do net carbs and be perfectly fine.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I know plenty of people in the ketogenic success group who are tracking net carbs, and they're trucking along just fine. I know people who are tracking total carbs, and they're trucking along just fine, right?
And at the end of the day, we're all individuals, and I think
right.
you know the smart people are all agreed that there's no one size fits all. So if you're doing total carbs, or rather, if you're doing net carbs and you're not losing, then try total carbs.
Right. And that's
right?
just it. Yeah. Experiment a little bit. Right.
But if you're losing, if you don't need to do total carbs, then don't deprive yourself of all the other delicious options that net carbs allows you if you don't have to.
Right. Which, if you like vegetables, that would be the thing. I'm not a fan, so I don't, people like me don't feel like we're missing out on anything. Okay. So the whole carb thing, what you see on the nutritional facts or the macro information, that's going to tell you basically whether or not, if you're tracking total, if you're tracking net, that sort of thing, that's going to give you a better understanding of what it is that you're faced with.
Right.
But there's a crucial key here that you have to pay attention to that some people overlook, although the consumer population is getting better at this, getting more educated on it, is you have to look at the serving size as well, right?
You beat me to it. That's absolutely the thing, is that I feel I get quite angry reading labels a lot. And often I'll read labels of things that I would never eat, but I'm just curious to read the label and see what's in it and then compare that to the ridiculous lies they've got on the front of the package. and the serving size is often, and particularly, it seems to be a trend that the crappier the food, the more dishonesty there is in the whole serving size. Right. So you'll read the fat grams, carb grams, protein grams, and you'll think, oh, wow, that's awesome. And then you look at the serving size and it's like, well, that's for 1/10 of the packet when you're thinking that the packet is one serving.
Right.
And so you're looking, oh, well, wow, I can eat that. And it's like got nothing in it. And this is awesome. But then you realize that that's only 1/10 of the packet. So then you've got to multiply everything on the label by 10 to figure out what the carb and protein and fat count will be if you actually ate what you would consider to be one portion. So serving size is really, really important because I think the companies use that to misguide us.
I think the most egregious example of that is the soda industry. I can't say for sure that it's like this now. I'm assuming it is because I can't imagine they've changed, but because I haven't had soda in so long. But they used to put a very small number of sugars in their nutritional label, but it was a 16-ounce can of soda was 2.5 servings, right? So it'd say something like 12 grams of carbs, but it was 2.5 servings in that one can. So so you'd end up getting a whole bunch of sugar for no reason. Right. So that's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So serving size is critical. I do also want to go back to the dairy, because dairy, particularly yogurt, a lot of keto people eat a lot of yogurt because Greek yogurt, full fat Greek yogurt, has a lot more protein in it than regular yogurt, and a lot of good fats in it and not a lot of sugar. However, if you take the time to look at all the labels of the different brands, you see they are wildly different. And there are some, Greek yogurts that have more sugar than ice cream. and
Right.
regular ice cream. And there are some that have like almost no protein, and some that have, I mean, it's really crazy. Um, One of the best, if you live in the States, one of the best Greek yogurts is Trader Joe's. So what you should be looking for when you're looking at the label for Greek yogurt is the highest protein and the lowest sugars.
I,
And then check the list of ingredients to make sure there's no added sugars.
right. If the list of ingredients is more than like three in a plain full fat yogurt, then you don't need it. It's because it should basically just have fermented milk. Basically, is all yogurt is. With
Right.
it should have the
With some
probiotic.
bugs.
Right.
A,
With the
a nice list of bugs.
exactly. Okay. So all right. Then so what are some other considerations specifically regarding? Now you said that you want to look for. So the other macros are protein and fat, right? Those are the other two macros that you want to look for.
Right.
And one of the things regarding fat is you want to make sure you want to compare the fat percentages, the fat grams with the actual kinds of fat they are, right? So you don't just, oh, this is high fat, I can take it, right?
Right. Again, by looking at the list of ingredients, that will give you a clue as to what the fats are in it. And if we're looking at processed vegetable oils, you probably want to steer clear of that. So yes, knowing what the fat is also useful.
Right. So the good fats are going to be saturated fats, coconut oil, butter, animal fats, that sort of thing. The bad
Yeah.
fats are going to be any of the vegetable oils with a couple of exceptions. Olive
Yeah.
oil is okay. And
Avocado.
avocado oil is okay. Macadamia nut oil is okay. But for the most part, if it's got soy or safflower or corn oil, although corn oil isn't used in food much anymore,
Canola.
canola oil, right? So
Don't
all of those
just
things,
say no.
just say no to canola, right? Grapeseed oil, all of those things. If it's from a seed or a vegetable, you generally want to avoid it. With a few of the exceptions, like I mentioned earlier. So if you look at the ingredients list and it's got any of those in it, you probably don't want to have it because it's the reason is it's not it's inflammatory, and that does not help in terms of overall health. And the kind of ketogenic lifestyle that I advocate is for overall health, not just filling out macros, right? So just because something is a fat doesn't mean it's the good kind of fat that's going to help you get to where you want to go. So so things are getting harder and harder and more complicated as we go along. All right. So what
Right.
else? What are some other final considerations when reading labels?
So just lost my train of thought.
Was
Oh, the
it
other thing I wanted to say was, and I know we never espouse counting calories, but there are a significant number of people who come to us from somewhere else and are still kind of on the calorie train, or they calculate their macros by figuring out, a total calorie count. So they say, I want to eat 1,500 calories a day. What are my macros?
right?
So for those people that are still there, we'll move you away from there at some point. But while you're still there, just understand that you can work out macros on products you buy from food labels really easily, because fat, 1 gram of fat, any fat, doesn't matter, 1 gram of fat gives you 9 calories, and 1 gram of protein gives you 4 calories, and 1 gram of carbs gives you 4 calories. So if you just multiply the fat grams on the label by 9 and then multiply the protein by 4, you can work out your macros from that just using that simple calculation.
Right. So and that's standard across the board, right? There's no special carbs that have
Nope.
there's no special fats, there's no special proteins. They all
Nope.
basically work out the same.
Yep. Fats will give you 1 gram of fat will give you 9 calories of energy. 1 gram of carb or protein will give you 4 calories of energy. So you can use, that's a standard formula. If you're doing the working out your macros via calories method, you can figure out from the nutrition label and doing that simple calculation what that's going to look like for you.
Okay. So is that basically the extent of what people need to know about reading labels? I would end up with saying this: if you're not sure about something,
Don't buy it.
don't buy the product and go educate yourself. And if it turns out it's perfectly okay, then okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're going to be buying groceries again, right? So always err on the side of caution. Um, it's not like it's a life and death situation, an immediate life and death situation. Just put it back on the shelf, educate yourself on the item that you're talking about, and then figure out whether or not it's in line with what you need.
And things like sausages, you might, if you've not studied this stuff for a long time, if you're new to this, you might think, ooh, sausages, protein and fat, awesome.
Right.
But if you read the label on a lot of sausages, you'll find there's all kinds of hidden crap in there. There's carbs in the form of fillers, and there's gluten and this and then blah, and additives and
Right.
artificial this, that, and the other. So there are things that you might assume are just awesome. But when you start reading the labels, you'll figure that not all sausages are the same, and that some sausages are infinitely better than most of the others.
Right. So again, there's going to be a selection, right? So take some time, look at them, and decide. Okay, this one is probably better for me. This one's got less of the stuff that I don't like, or it's not good for me, or that I know is bad. Opt for the best choice, right? Okay. All right, so that's about it. That does it for this particular session of the Keto Evangelist Kitchen. As always, Carrie Brown, thank you very much for lending me your brain for this period of time.
You're more than welcome. I love sharing my brain.
All right.
Now that it works better thanks to a keto diet.
Oh, I like what you did there. Brought it around, bringing it around full circle. All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.